So, ladies and gentlemen, Papoose has let the cat out the bag when it comes to him ghostwriting for Remy Ma. Now, before I get into that, make sure you guys hit the like and subscribe button. My name is Mfasis. I am a rapper and music producer, and I do podcast videos like the one you're watching right now. So, as far as who Papoose is, for the people that may not know, he is a rapper from Brooklyn, New York, who became popular during the late 90s on an underground level. He was featured on like a Coogee rap song, but then he also put out a gang of mixtapes during the early 2000s. He one of his most popular verses was the song Touch It, the remix to Touch It from Busta Rhymes. That's at least what I first heard of him on the remix to Touch It, where he had the infamous verse talking about where he said things like five birds of death, you don't understand. I got New York City in the palm of my hand. Like at the time as a kid, I was in like elementary school. So this was it wasn't viral because but it was somewhat viral, at least being in somebody that grew up in New York. Like it was definitely something that kids in my class and all of us were talking about and going crazy over. So it was a big deal at that time. Now, Papoose infamously signed a $1.5 million record deal with Jive Records in 2006, and things looked like they were going up for him in his career, right? But his career kind of stalled out, and that happens to a lot of rappers, a lot of artists in general. They may stall out, things kind of don't work out, and you don't hear much from them. But you still kind of heard about Papoose, of course, because of the relationship between him and Remy Ma that he was documenting, and everybody was paying attention to somewhat over the years or whatever. Now, recently, for whatever reason, Remy Ma and Papoose started crashing out on each other. I don't really care why. I really don't care. But however, I do care about the musical side of this conversation because Papoose, for the first time, has actually come out and expressed. Well, he explained his side of the story, which is something you don't usually see because Papoose doesn't really speak much about it. So, but it was interesting to hear his story of what happened during this time where his deal didn't work out and all of this, and hearing, kind of hearing him hint at what exactly went wrong. So, he during the time when he signed this $1.5 million deal, this is right around the time where Remy Ma is going to prison for shooting her friend. He's instead of him focusing on going to record as many songs as possible and do whatever he got to do to make the most of that deal and that momentum, he's instead visiting her in prison every day, taking time out and money out to visit her and bring her a bunch of food all every day throughout the month for a year straight. And long story short, apparently his deal fell through, but he still had some money to the side left over, and he, in his own words, he's claiming that he spent all of that money just continuing to go visit her and bring her some food and be there for her during this tough time. And on top, even once his deal fell through and he's losing momentum, he's still making a serious effort to try to help keep her relevant, her name relevant, even though his own name is not even that relevant at this time. It's starting to lose a lot of steam. But either way, when he lost that steam, he's still going out of his way to be distracted by her. And I know some people may say that it's selfish for me to say this, but at the end of the day, I think he wasted a lot of time that he could have spent striking while the iron was hot. But it is what it is. He says he doesn't regret it, so it is what it is. He also claims that, well, this isn't a claim. Like I remember when this happened, so I know he's telling the truth here. Like as Remy Ma was getting ready to be released from prison a few years later, he's making a serious push to try to help her get her name hot again, get some motion going again. That way, when she gets out, she can, you know, take whatever's left of her career and try to fix it and, make something out of it. And I remember when this happened. Again, he's going through a lot of effort to try to make sure that she's straight, and he's not even really that popping yet or at all. But it is what it is. People, they make sacrifices for people they care about. So it's, that's whatever. Either way, he does what he does, and now a few years later he's trying to pick up some steam again. He was dropping like I think one mixtape or one album every month for like a year or so straight, and it got to the point where he did get a feature from Lil Wayne and 2 Chainz on the song Thought I Was Gonna Stop, which was a dope song. It's like a dope rapidy rap song, which I'm a rapidy rapper, so I obviously like those type of songs. But it was a song that was dope. I'm sure he was excited about it, but he mentioned how she started to act funny during this time. She started to act funny as he's, finally getting some motion going for himself again. He was confused by it. He's asking like her friends and family or whatever, and they're basically saying in so many words, she's jealous of the motion that you're starting to regain in your career, and she's trying to do this unnecessary stuff to throw you off. And again, that goes back to her being a major distraction and just getting in the way. Again, I know people think it's selfish for me to say this, but at the end of the day, this situation is a serious lesson in not letting anybody get in the way of your greatness, not letting anybody get in the way on your path to greatness, because who knows how big Papoose could have been if he was 100% locked in. We'll never know, really. Like he still has, done well for himself, but it could, who knows, it could have worked out a lot better is what I'm saying. And you got to strike when the iron's hot, just in life in general, but definitely in music, because as we all know, there is a major ageism problem in music, where a lot of fans, they have this stigma in their head where they think that once you pass a certain age, you're no longer allowed to be a rapper and try to chase your dreams of making music for whatever reason. And that's just more reason to make sure you strike when the iron is hot, because Papoose, realistically, you only had one chance. You had to make the most of it, but he simply didn't. He admitted that. Again, he says he doesn't regret what happened. Okay, I guess I don't buy that. That's the one part of his IG rant that I don't really believe, when he says he doesn't regret it. I think he does, and I don't think that makes him a bad person for regretting it. I think most people would look back at that with regret, because even though things have worked out a bit, he didn't, in my opinion, I don't think he reached his full potential, but it is what it is. Now, the bigger thing that he also mentioned in his rant on IG was the fact that he ghost wrote for Remy Ma. Now, I do believe him 100%, to be honest with you. He claims that he ghost wrote 90% of her songs. I do believe it. For whatever reason, on the mainstream level of hip hop, you do have this element where a lot of female rappers are not the ones writing their raps. They're like basically just, whether you want to call them puppets or just faces to the song or whatever you want to call them, either way, they're not the ones actually penning these lyrics. And unfortunately, you have a lot of females on the underground level who do rap well, who do write their own lyrics, but for whatever reason, they're not really getting shine like that. It is what it is, but everybody knows that a lot of these females are having people write for them on the mainstream level. You even heard, like, I remember there was some female, I think her name was like Maya the Don or something. Like, she was one of them ones on the freshman list from a year ago, the XXL freshman list. And if I'm not mistaken, it was either in the cypher or in like a freestyle for XXL, where she said, it was a bar that made me chuckle, where she basically said that a lot of these girls like having dudes ghostwrite songs for them about their pussy, which I thought was just funny, because again, this is happening. So the idea of Papoose ghostwriting for Remy, to me, doesn't seem far-fetched at all, to be honest with you. He says 90%, so he's alluding to songs like All the Way Up, because he did say, hey, I wrote one of your biggest records. Based on the timeline, I would assume that would be songs like All the Way Up. I would assume that would be songs like the Nicki Minaj diss song Sheether. And this would definitely be a major bombshell, because Remy has more of that brand where you assume that she's a rapidy rap type rapper, like she's the one responsible for it. But this would be a major shot to her credibility, but it is what it is. I think this is a bit fascinating from a songwriting perspective. The other stuff, relationship stuff, I again, I do not care about that. But as far as the writing goes, I'm very curious. He says that he can go pull up every song he wrote for her right now. I would like to see that, just out of curiosity, because I think the ghostwriting element of hip hop is probably one of the most fascinating elements, because I can't imagine how deep the rabbit hole goes. Like, everybody, they only think about Drake, which makes sense, of course, because he's the biggest example and got exposed. But who really knows just how deep the rabbit hole goes when it comes to all the rappers who have songs written for them by other people, but pretend like they're the ones writing all their songs? But let me know, do you believe Papoose when he says he ghost wrote from Remy Ma? And also, do you think Papoose missed a major opportunity to make the most of his career back when he first signed that $1.5 million record deal with Jive Records?